For more than half a century, Stevie Nicks has felt less like a performer and more like a spell whispered into American music. Her voice, raspy, trembling, and strangely eternal, became the soundtrack to heartbreaks, awakenings, and quiet midnights. But long before she wrapped herself in shawls and stardust, she was a shy girl named Stephanie Lynn Nicks, moving from city to city with her parents and building worlds inside her imagination because she never stayed anywhere long enough to belong. Born in Phoenix in 1948, Stevie spent her childhood in constant motion. Her father's job meant the family packed up their lives every few years, leaving behind friends and forming new routines in unfamiliar cities. While other kids formed circles and cliques, Stevie found comfort in solitude, in daydreams, melodies, and the gentle protection of her mother. "I lived in my own universe," she once admitted, and that universe would one day grow large enough to draw millions inside it. The first person who truly recognized her spark wasn't a producer or future bandmate, but her grandfather, a country singer whose own dreams had faded with time. He placed records in her hands, sat beside her as they harmonized, and treated her childhood voice as if it carried something sacred. The Everly Brothers, rockabilly singers, country ballads. She absorbed them all, not as entertainment, but as emotional instruction. At 16, Stevie received a guitar that felt less like a present and more like permission. Her first song, written with aching honesty, hinted at the woman she would become, someone who could bleed onto paper without ever losing her dignity. Music didn't ask her to be louder, prettier, or more social. It simply asked for truth, and she had plenty to give. Her world shifted once more when she met a teenage musician named Lindsey Buckingham. They met in a crowded California youth hall, and their voices collided in harmony like two puzzle pieces that had been wandering separately for years. It was a moment small in appearance but seismic in consequence, the spark that would eventually ignite a musical empire. Stevie Nicks didn't rise because of luck or accident. Her ascent was forged in loneliness, imagination, and a voice that carried both agility and fire. It was only a matter of time before the world took notice. But destiny rarely arrives gently, and Stevie's next chapter would pull her into a love story and a band that would change music forever and break her heart in ways the world still sings about. The spark between Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham didn't just create a partnership. It forged a storm. After their effortless harmony at that small California gathering, they began circling each other creatively and emotionally, eventually forming a band called Fritz. They were young, ambitious, and fearless, opening for icons like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin despite barely understanding the whirlwind they'd stepped into. Offstage, their romance simmered with the same intensity as their music, passionate, complicated, and bound for disaster. In 1973, they released Buckingham Nicks, a record filled with rawness and promise. But commercial success never arrived, and the financial strain pushed Stevie into odd jobs, waitressing, cleaning houses, while Lindsey worked tirelessly on recordings in their cramped apartment. These were the years that hardened her, sharpening the determination that would soon define her career. Then fate intervened. Mick Fleetwood heard a demo and was captivated. He wanted Lindsey for Fleetwood Mac, but Lindsey made one thing clear. He wouldn't join without Stevie. In 1975, both stepped into the band, unknowingly entering a chapter of fame and emotional chaos that would define rock history. Almost instantly, Fleetwood Mac transformed. Stevie's mysticism and smoky melodies blended with Lindsey's sharp production instincts, creating a sound that felt like electricity wrapped in velvet. Their first album together was a smash, but the real storm arrived with rumors. By the time the band began recording their legendary album, Stevie and Lindsey's relationship had completely fractured. Yet they were trapped together in the studio, microphones inches apart, forced to turn heartbreak into harmony. Each song became a confession disguised as poetry. Stevie offered dreams, a soft, defiant goodbye. You say you want your freedom. Lindsey retaliated with Go Your Own Way, a raw wound set to guitar. They weren't singing at each other. They were bleeding at each other. Meanwhile, the other bandmates were battling their own implosions. Christine McVie's marriage collapsed. Mick Fleetwood's home life unraveled. The studio felt less like a creative space and more like a battlefield dressed in velvet curtains. Yet from this emotional wreckage emerged one of the greatest albums ever made. For Stevie, the pressure was crushing. She fought to be heard in a band dominated by powerful personalities, often feeling like she had to claw her way through emotional noise just to stand her ground. But she channeled that ache into songs like Landslide, Silver Springs, and Sarah, weaving her private grief into universal anthems. Fleetwood Mac's success soared higher than anyone imagined, and the price was steep. Stevie walked through fame like a woman, carrying both a crown and a wound. But even as the world worshipped her voice, Stevie was preparing to do something few thought she could: break free from the band's shadow and create a new world entirely her own. Success had wrapped Stevie Nicks in a golden glow, but behind that shimmer was a woman stretched thin. Fleetwood Mac's fame was a hurricane, thrilling, chaotic, and impossible to outrun. After Rumors, instead of slowing down, Stevie stepped directly into another storm: the terrified decision to build a solo career while still carrying the weight of the band's demands. In 1981, she released Belladonna, a project that tested her confidence and nearly broke her spirit. Critics saw a triumph: a #1 album, hit singles like Edge of 17, and a newfound artistic independence. But Stevie saw something else entirely: pressure, endless studio hours, exhaustion that clung to her bones, a fear that everyone would discover she was only magic when Lindsay was shaping the sound behind her. Yet Belladonna proved the opposite. It showed she was not Fleetwood Mac's mystical accessory. She was a force in her own right. But success came with a personal toll. During these years, her tangled romantic life left invisible bruises. One of the deepest wounds came from her relationship with Don Henley of the Eagles. Their connection was passionate but unstable, two artists who burned too brightly and too quickly. When Stevie discovered she was pregnant, she faced a crossroads she had never imagined. Her career was exploding, her schedule unforgiving, and the world watched her every move. The decision she made still lingered in her voice decades later, a heartbreak she admitted she would carry for life. Some believe the song Sarah carries a shadow of that memory, a soft echo of a child who lived only in their imaginations. Stevie never hid from the pain. She would speak of it later, not to seek forgiveness, but show the world that behind the lace and legend was a woman who made impossible choices. Another chapter unfolded with producer Jimmy Iovine, a man who both lifted her and unintentionally constrained her. Their partnership created brilliance. The sound of Belladonna pulsed with his fingerprints, but the emotional push and pull left Stevie struggling to hold on to her independence. He loved her music deeply, yet sometimes too tightly, shaping her image and sound until she felt her own edges blur. And then came Joe Walsh, the one she later called the true love of her life. Joe didn't try to mold her. He understood her darkness, matched her intensity, and met her where she lived emotionally. Their connection was deep, but their demons ran deeper. In the end, their love wasn't broken by betrayal, but by exhaustion, grief, and the pressures each carried alone. Through every relationship, through every collapse, Stevie wrote, and her writing turned those wounds into songs that millions would cling to. But just when love had already taken so much from her, life delivered a loss far more devastating. A tragedy that would push Stevie into the most shocking decision of her entire life.